The Sultanate of Rum was a Turko-Persian Sunni Muslim state, established in the parts of Anatolia which had been conquered from the Byzantine Empire by the Seljuk Empire, which established by Seljuk Turks. The name Rum reflects the Arabic name of Anatolia, ar-Rûm, a loan from Greek Ρωμιοί iota Romans. The Sultanate of Rum seceded from the Great Seljuk Empire under Suleiman ibn Qutulmish in 1077, following the Battle of Manzikert, with capitals first at İznik and then at Konya. It reached the height of its power during the late 12th and early 13th century, when it succeeded in taking Byzantine key ports on the Mediterranean and Black Sea coasts. In the east, the Sultanate absorbed other Turkish states and reached Lake Van. Trade from Iran and Central Asia across Anatolia was developed by a system of caravanserai. Especially strong trade ties with the Genoese formed during this period. The increased wealth allowed the Sultanate to absorb other Turkish states that had been established in eastern Anatolia. The Seljuk Sultans bore the brunt of the Crusades, and eventually succumbed to the Mongol invasion in 1243. For the remainder of the 13th century, the Seljuks acted as vassals of the Sultanate. The power disintegrated during the second half of the 13th century. The last of the Seljuk vassals of the Sultanate, Masud II, was murdered in 1308. The dissolution of the Seljuk state left behind a number of Anatolian beyliks, among them that of the Ottoman dynasty, which eventually became the Ottoman Empire. History. Establishment. In the 1070s, after the Battle of Manzikert, the Seljuk commander Suleiman ibn Qutulmish, a distant cousin of Malik Shah I and a former contender from the throne of the Seljuk Empire, came to power in western Anatolia. In 1075, he captured the Byzantine cities of Nicaea and Nicomedia. 2 years later, he declared himself Sultan of an independent Seljuk state and established his capital at İznik. Suleiman was killed in Antioch in 1086 by Tutushai, the Seljuk ruler of Syria, and Suleiman's son Kilay-Arslan I was imprisoned. When Malik Shah died in 1092, Kilay-Arslan was released and immediately established himself in his father's territories. Crusades. Kilay-Arslan was defeated by soldiers of the First Crusade and driven back into south-central Anatolia, where he set up his state with capital in Konya. In 1107, he ventured east and captured Mosul but died the same year fighting Malik Shah's son, Mehmed Tapa. Meanwhile, another Rum Seljuk, Malik Shah, captured Konya. In 1116, Kilay-Arslan's son, Masud I, took the city with the help of the Danishmends. Upon Mesud's death in 1156, the Sultanate controlled nearly all of central Anatolia. Mesud's son, Kilay-Arslan II, captured the remaining territories around Chivas and Malatya from the last of the Danishmends. At the Battle of Myriokephalon in 1176, Kilay-Arslan also defeated a Byzantine army led by Manuel I Komnenos, dealing a major blow to Byzantine power in the region. Despite a temporary occupation of Konya in 1190 by the Holy Roman Empire's forces of the Third Crusade, the Sultanate was quick to recover and consolidate its power. After the death of the last Seljuk Sultan, Tofrul III, in 1194, the Seljuks of Rum became the sole ruling representatives of the dynasty. Khosrow seized Konya from the Crusaders in 1205. Under his rule and those of his two successors, Khosrow and Ubadai, Seljuk power in Anatolia reached its apogee. Khosrow's most important achievement was the capture of the harbour of Antalya on the Mediterranean coast in 1207. His son Khosrow captured Sinop and made the Empire of Trebizond his vassal in 1214. He also subjugated Cilicia and Armenia but in 1218 was forced to surrender the city of Aleppo, acquired from Al-Kamil. Konya-It continued to acquire lands along the Mediterranean coast from 1221 to 1225. In the 1220s, he sent an expeditionary force across the Black Sea to Crimea. In the east he defeated the Mangujakids and began to put pressure on the Artuakids. Mongol conquests. Khosrow II began his reign by capturing the region around Diyarbakir, but in 1239 he had to face an uprising led by a popular preacher named Baba Ishak. After 3 years, when he had finally quelled the revolt, the Crimean foothold was lost and the state and the Sultanate's army had weakened. It is in these conditions that he had to face a far more dangerous threat, that of the expanding Mongols. The forces of the Mongol Empire took Erzurum in 1242, and in 1243, the Sultan was crushed by Beyju in the Battle of Koz-Adag, and the Seljuk Turks were forced to swear allegiance to the Mongols and became the vassals. The Sultan himself had fled to Anatolia after the 1243 battle, where he died in 1246, his death starting a period of tripartite and then dual rule that lasted until 1260. The Seljuk realm was divided among Khosrow's 3 sons. The eldest, Khosrow II, assumed the rule in the area west of the river Kizlyurmak. His younger brothers, Arslan IV and Ubad II, were set to rule the regions east of the river under Mongol administration. In October 1256, Beyju defeated Khosrow II near Aksaray, and all of Anatolia became officially subject to Mongol Khan. In 1260, Khosrow II fled from Konya to Crimea, where he died in 1279. Arslan IV was executed in 1265, and Khosrow III became the nominal ruler of all of Anatolia, with the tangible power exercised either by the Mongols of the Sultan's influential regions. Disintegration. The Seljuk state had started to split into small emirates that increasingly distanced themselves from both Mongol and Seljuk control. In 1277, responding to a call from Anatolia, the Mamluk Sultan, Baybars, raided Anatolia and defeated the Mongols, temporarily replacing them as the administrator of the Seljuk realm. But since the native forces who had called him to Anatolia did not manifest themselves for the defense of the land, he had to return to his home base in Egypt, and the Mongol administration was reassumed, officially and severely. Also, the Armenian kingdom of Cilicia captured the Mediterranean coast from Salinos to Seleucia, as well as the cities of Marash and Behiznik, for the Seljuk in the 1240s. Near the end of his reign, Khosrow III could claim direct sovereignty only over lands around Konya. Some of the Beyliks and Seljuk governors of Anatolia continued to recognize, albeit nominally, the supremacy of the Sultan in Konya, delivering the khutbah in the name of the sultans in Konya in recognition of the sovereignty, and the sultans continued to call themselves Fareddin, the pride of Islam. When Khosrow III was executed in 1284, the Seljuk dynasty suffered another blow from internal struggles which lasted until 1303, when the son of Khosrow II, Masud II, established himself as Sultan in Kayseri. He was murdered in 1308 and his son Mesut III soon afterwards. A distant relative to the Seljuk dynasty momentarily installed himself as emir of Konya, but he was defeated and his lands conquered by the Karamanids in 1328. The Sultanate's monetary sphere of influence lasted slightly longer, and coins of Seljuk mint, generally considered to be of reliable value, continued to be used throughout the 14th century, once again including by the Ottomans. Culture and society. The Seljuk Dynasty of Rum, as successors to the Great Seljuks, based the political, religious and cultural heritage on the Perso-Islamic tradition, even to the point of naming their sons with Persian names. Though of Turkish origin, Rum Seljuks patronized Persian art, architecture, and literature and used Persian as a language of administration. Moreover, Byzantine influence in the Sultanate was also significant, since Greek aristocracy remained part of the Seljuk nobility, and the local Greek population was numerous in the region. In their construction of caravanserais, madrasas and mosques, the Rum Seljuks translated the Iranian Seljuk architecture of bricks and plaster into the use of stone. Among these, the caravanserais, used as stops, trading posts and defense for caravans, and of which about 100 structures were built during the Anatolian Seljuks period, are particularly remarkable. Along with Persian influences, which had an indisputable effect, Seljuk architecture was inspired by Christian and Muslim Armenians. As such, Anatolian architecture represents some of the most distinctive and impressive constructions in the entire history of Islamic architecture. Later, this Anatolian architecture would be transmitted to Sultanate India. The largest caravanserai is the Sultan on the road between the cities of Konya and Aksaray, in the township of Sultanhani, depending the latter city, enclosing 3,900 square meters. There are two caravanserais that carry the name Sultanhan, the other one being between Kayseri and Shivas. Furthermore, apart from Sultanhani, 5 other towns across Turkey owe their names to caravanserais built there. These are Alikafan in Kangal, Juragan, Hegemon and Kadiniani, as well as the township of Akan within the Denizli metropolitan area. The Caravanserai of Hegemon is unique in having underneath the usual inscription in Arabic with information relating to the edifice, 2 further inscriptions in Armenian and Syriac. Since it was constructed by the Sultan King-Ubad I's doctor, who is thought to have been a Christian by his origins, and to have converted to Islam. There are other particular cases like the settlement in Kalef-Hisa near Alaka, founded by the Seljuk commander Husam ibn Timurlu, who had taken refuge in the region after the defeat in the Battle of Kozadag and had founded a township comprising a castle, a madrasa, a habitation zone and a caravanserai, which were later abandoned apparently around the 16th century. All but the caravanserai, which remains undiscovered, was explored in the 1960s by the art historian Oktay Aslanapa, and the finds as well as a number of documents attest to the existence of a vivid settlement in the site, such as a 1463 Ottoman firman which instructs the headmaster of the madrasa to lodge not in the school but in the caravanserai. The Seljuk palaces, as well as their armies, were stuffed with gulams, enslaved youths taken from non-Muslim communities, mainly Greeks from former Byzantine territories. The practice of keeping gulams may have offered a model for the later Devshirme during the time of the Ottoman Empire dynasty. As regards the names of the sultans, there are variants in form and spelling depending on the preferences displayed by one source or the other, either for fidelity in transliterating the Persian variant of the Arabic script which the sultans used, or for a rendering corresponding to the modern Turkish phonology and orthography. Some sultans had 2 names that they chose to use alternatively in reference to the legacy, while the 2 palaces built by Alauddin Keykubat carried the names Kubad-Abad Palace and Keykubat-Eyu Palace. He named his mosque in Konya as Alauddin Mosque and the port city of Alanya he had captured as Alai. Similarly, the madras built by Khosrow in Kayseri, within the complex dedicated to his sister Gevan-e-Sahib, was named Giasiya Madras, and the one built by Khosrow in Shivas as Izdiya Madras.